In this lesson, we're going to cover the security management big picture, talking about our different customers, their challenges, and the fundamentals of the R80 security management platform. Let's talk about some of our customer types and the challenges we see that they're having with security management today. We have enterprise customers managing large corporate network with branch offices that might need segregated security management. Requirement for multiple administrator levels for different security solutions like next generation firewall, remote access, threat prevention. The security management systems also need to handle different organizational units, but at the same time allow collaboration between the teams with concurrency and segregation of duties. Having cross-organizational security policies where different modifications may need different permission levels on global, local, and per security control level. Looking at the ability to handle huge amount of logging, but at the same time get insight in the vast amount of security logs to be able to focus on what's important. Also, those organizations are looking into decreased costs by consolidating point solutions like IPS, firewalling, URL filtering, application control, sandboxing devices, networking, antivirus, etc. So these are some of the challenges that those enterprises are being exposed to today. We also have managed service providers and managed security service providers. These are companies that offer to their customers security management services such as firewalls, site-to-site remote access VPN solutions, threat prevention, threat intelligence, web security, and incident response. They have security operations centers with 24/7 networking monitoring SLAs for support and modifications. They might be managing mobile protection solutions, and they also provide reportings for the customers. And they, of course, would like to be able to integrate the security management systems into customer self-service portals to be more efficient and cost-effective in providing security service to the customers. So, for example, the customer can directly go into the customer self-service portal and request reporting of the managed security solutions themselves and not be asking the provider to generate a report. They can basically generate it themselves inside the customer portal. So that's some of the challenges we're seeing for those customers. We also have cloud computing operator customers. These are companies like VMware, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, but also smaller local players that offers infrastructure as a service, allowing their customers to basically rent virtual computers on which to run their own computer applications. They are looking for open APIs in the security solution to be able to automate as much as possible inside the cloud, looking for security management solutions that are aware of the changes done inside the cloud to create cloud application-driven policies to be able to adjust the security accordingly to how the platform is dynamically changing inside those environments. Now, as we see it, managing security is today becoming more and more complex. An average CISO has to deal with people, processes, and technology. Are you aware that today, depending on what research report you're reading, there's a lack or shortage between 1 to 1.5 million IT security professionals worldwide today. And it takes time to educate people. So we need to get more efficient to be able to do more with lesser time, to be able to decrease that gap in a short time frame. And this is one of the things we're trying to achieve with our next generation security management solution, to be more efficient. Also, are you familiar with the term defense in depth? The idea is to have multiple different security controls with different protection types to be able to create a defense in depth solution to protect your IT organizational values. So defense in depth is traditionally achieved with an approach of buying the best of breed. And this can be somewhat paradoxical as you end up with multiple different management interfaces to manage the solutions. You have incident information located in different data silos. So you have long and cumbersome troubleshooting times. You have overlapping policies where you need to make multiple changes at different places. Managed security is still most in those situations a manual process where you need to do changes in different management systems. And a lack of integration with other management or workflow systems within the organization adds to the complexity of managing the security infrastructure. In the past, security was about protecting networks, servers, but nowadays application, documents, electronic data, public and private clouds, users and mobile devices all must be protected, managed and monitored. Failure to protect any of these assets can create a backdoor for hackers to access the organization. Also, with extreme agility of cloud environments where applications are constantly being provisioned in and out and services are offered on demand based on the business requirements within the organizations, security that still mandates human checks can basically not keep up. So within Checkpoint, we believe that the key to managing this complexity is consolidation, bringing all your different security protections and functions in under one umbrella inside a unified ecosystem. So R80 security management is basically continuing to redefine the golden standard. Checkpoint has basically since 1994, when we first delivered our product, been seen by security analysts as the company delivering the golden standard for security management of complex security solutions. In general, if we look at how Checkpoint security management platform has evolved, everything started very simplistic. We started with Checkpoint's policy editor. It was basically a visual object-oriented management solution. It was the model that many other vendors emulated because they thought it was a good way of working with security, using a graphical interface instead of writing a lot of advanced command line requests. So this graphical user interface was designed to manage basically firewall and VPN rules. And we had a log application that was separate. Then things started becoming a little bit more complex because we introduced something called software security blades, where we allowed organizations to consolidate multiple security solutions into one platform. So instead of having a dedicated firewall from one vendor, an IPS from another one, and to button up the wires from a third one, you can consolidate that into one place and decrease your total cost of ownership as well as your operational expenses and remove that part of overlapping policies. Now, we started adding configuration parameters into this graphical user interface that we had at that time, and that created multiple different tabs and locations to manage all these different security aspects. We also created new graphical tools like Smart Event to view logs and do reporting. We had Smart Log to search for indexed logs in Google-like searches. We had Smart View Tracker, that was the old log viewer that we saw earlier. We had dashboard containing the security pulse and so on. So we started creating a complexity with multiple different applications. So what we try to do is to create something called elegant simplicity instead, where we're basically unifying all these different applications, Smart Event, Smart Log, Smart Dashboard, and so on, into one unified graphical user interface called Smart Console. Smart Console contains both configuration and monitoring aspects of your security state. It's been worked from R&D's perspective in a way so it's task-oriented. So you're working with certain tasks in a quick way. We're providing policy unification, and also monitoring and logging is integrated into this graphical user interface. Inside Smart Console, we have multiple different main sections. We have a gateways, we have security policies, we have logs and monitoring, we have management settings. So all the different gateway blades, for example, for firewalling, application control URL filtering, data loss, mobile access, VPN, quality service, and so on, those have been unified into one place inside the security policies called access control security policies. So we unified access control security policy for access control security blades. And then we have a unified threat prevention policy containing all the different threat prevention blades like IPS, anti-bot, antivirus, threat emulation, and so on, unified into one single place. The different applications that were provided in different graphical user interfaces before have now been unified in Smart Console. So under the gateway sections, we find Smart View Monitor and Smart Update to manage and monitor our gateways. Under the Logs and Monitoring section, we can find Smart View Tracker, Smart Log functionalities. Everything is indexed and integrated into this graphical user interface. We have reporting capabilities and event use capabilities from Smart Event and Smart Reporter, as well as the compliance blade to validate that we are compliant with our security infrastructure. And those are located under the Logs and Monitoring tag. Basically, to create a simple, unified graphical user interface again. So you're not required to be a rocket scientist to work with security. So basically, these are the fundamentals of the R80 security management platform. So we have unified policies, we have efficient and automated operations, and we have an integrated threat management. So let's talk a little bit more about those different parts. So the unified policy is a security policy that basically features unification and modularity. It allows separation in duties and can create modularity using something called layers. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. So basically now we have one console where the security teams can manage all the different aspects from the security policy in access control to threat prevention across the entire organization, both for the physical and virtual environments, both in public and private clouds. It's managed from one single location. We also have one policy to manage everything. With the unified access control policy, we can control interactions between user, assets, applications, and data in and out of virtual and physical segments, controlling all the different enforcement points in one place. So we can basically set up a policy that says that from a certain user using a specific device over a specific application, I'm allowed to send this data, and this policy should be sent both to my public cloud data center as well as my local cloud data center, as my physical data center, or my security as a service solutions from one single place. As I mentioned earlier, since there's a lack of around 1 to 1.5 million security professionals today, a security management solution needs to strive for efficiency. The ability to define a single rule that is controlling interactions between user, assets, applications, and data gives exceptional control over policy creation. For example, creating this rule for developer access could take around 2 times longer using another security management solution. Now we know this because R&D has done a lot of time studies to identify how we can build R80 in the best and most efficient way from a security management perspective. So we've done a lot of user usability labs to understand how users are working with security management to get a good workflow within the R80 Smart Console. When each, for example, next generation firewall rule like this, allowing access from developers to internet using Dropbox and Box to retrieve and store Java source code, this basically takes 1 minute and 45 seconds to create in R80, while compared to competitive solution, it takes 4 minutes and 3 seconds Basically, you're saving 2 minutes in average per rule. Now, this can sound ridiculous, 2 minutes, I don't care about that. But let's say you have like 100 tickets per month to manipulate or create rules like this. Then you're basically saving 3 hours of working time by having a more efficient security management solution. And this is something we've been striving for to do within R80 security management. Also, I mentioned earlier we have something called policy layers. I'm going to talk a little bit more about policy layers later, but with the introduction of policy layers, you can take this unified policy that we talked about and segment it into different manageable chunks to delegate tasks and separate duties based on IP operational or organizational role. For example, in this case, Anne is in charge of application control and URL filtering. She's only able to change those rules, while Walter are allowed to manage access to the data center servers in the private and public cloud. You can basically not only securely distribute responsibilities to a person, you can also offload responsibilities to automated tasks controlled and enforced by different policy layers. So think about layers in another way. Lego is basically allowing you to build whatever you would like to do. It's basically up to your imagination that is the limit. And it's similar with layers. It provides endless flexibility. So let me explain to you how layers are working using Lego bricks. As mentioned, in R80 we have something called layers. Layers is essentially a building block of different access rules inside the access control policy. So one layer contains a block of rules. This layer can then be implemented in 2 different ways inside R80. You can either implement a layer in inline mode in the access control policy, or you can implement it in ordered mode in the access control policy. So if you use Lego bricks, we have this example where the blue blocks are the access control rules. Inside those access control rules, I can insert a parent rule, this green block, pointing to a specific layers with subrules. So in this example, the blue rules are firewall access rules, while the green rule is the clean internet access policy. And inside the clean internet access policy, we're pointing to a layer called, for example, web control. And inside the web control layer, we have a section of subrules to be inspected when accessing internet. So the way this works is that the parent rule is, for example, saying traffic from internal zones towards internet. If we're matching those parameters, traffic should be forwarded to the web control layer for further inspection. If traffic is not coming from the internal zone to internet, but it's maybe coming from external zone towards the DMZ zone, traffic will jump over that rule and continue being inspected by the rest of the security policy. Now, layers can also be implemented in something called ordered mode inside R80. So in this example with the Lego blocks we have here, we have an ordered mode policy, while the red blocks are the, for example, firewall rule-based access control rules, and the green blocks are the web control, for example, application control and URL filtering policy. So we have 2 ordered layers. The way it's working here is that traffic needs to be inspected by the first layer inside the policy and accepted. Once traffic has been accepted by the first policy, traffic will continue to be inspected by the second layer inside the policy, and if it's allowed by the rules inside the second layer, it's going to be able to reach its final destination. So it needs to be inspected in the order of the layers inside the policy. So that's the difference between ordered and inline mode. While in inline mode, the parent rule is pointing towards the layer with subrules, And in ordered mode, traffic needs to be allowed through the first layer, then be inspected by the second layer, and be allowed by one of the rules inside that layer to reach its final destination. In inline mode, traffic needs to be allowed by the sub-rules inside the inline layer that parent rule is pointing towards. Now, the nice thing with layers is actually that you can reuse layers and share them between different policy packets. So let's take this example. Let's say we have an organization with a headquarter. And inside that headquarter, we today have policy where we have a access control rule base with firewall layers, and then we have a layer with, for example, web control, inspecting web control traffic. We also have, let's say, 50 different remote offices. And all of those 50 different remote offices, we maybe have different kinds of firewall policies. And now the CISO decides that we should also implement local internet breakouts at those remote offices. We should enable application control and URL filtering on those remote offices as well. But in this organization, we might have 5 different security administrators working with access control for the firewall policy, while we only have one administrator working with access control and URL filtering policy within this organization, since we only have currently one policy for the main office. But for the future, we're going to implement web control and URL filtering on all the other remote offices as well, 50 of them. And since we only have one guy, he don't want to be overloaded with doing 50 different changes, one at each remote office, when doing a change to the web control and URL filtering layer. So what we can achieve in R80 is that we can actually assign permissions to a certain layer, for example, the web control and URL filtering layer, and then we can share and reuse this layer. So the green layer can be used in the main office corporate policy, but at the same time, it can also be used in, for example, the policy at the different remote offices. When the administrator that is working with a web control and URL filtering layer is doing a change on this layer, those changes are going to affect all the 51 different policies, including the headquarter. So in this way, we can be more efficient. So let me show you how the different layers looks like in R80. So here you're seeing the corporate policy. Inside the corporate policy, we have a rule called access to internet. Inside the access to internet, we are accepting traffic from internal zone towards internet. The action for this traffic, instead of accept and or drop, is point towards an inline layer called web control. So I can select inline layer, and then I can select my shared layers. In this case, I only have one called web control. If I expand this rule, I can see the sub-rules that are within the web control layer. So here we can see the different application control and URL filtering rules for web control. If I go to my branch office policies, I can see the same layer, web control, being shared and reused on my branch office policies. And in this case, they are implemented in ordered mode. So first, traffic needs to match the network access control policy, also known as the firewall policy. So in this case, we have a rule saying from branch offices to any with internet services permit. So we're going to any destination that is not internal. And then if we're permitted there, we're going to be inspected by the web control layer. Similar to how it works with firewall and application control in R77. something. If I'm, for example, making a change here, for example, changing the description to Jim, this change will also reflect on the corporate policy, since it's the same layer being reused in different policy packages to be more efficient. This is another way of explaining how layers are working in R80. Next fundamental feature of R80 is streamlined and automated operations by providing policy applications to improve operational efficiency, allowing concurrency to improve collaboration, and do automation to offload simple time-consuming tasks or integrate with software-defined data centers to automate deployment of security gateways inside these private clouds or new policies to protect new applications. The policy applications include best practice features built into the interface that anticipate the daily needs of a security admin. For example, we integrated logs into the policy dashboard so that with a single click can access the logs associated with that specific rule. So there's no more need for opening a dedicated application to review the logs. You can directly from the security policy get access to those logs related to that rule. Within Checkpoint, we've done a lot of time motion studies. So we did the time motion study of how fast it would be to filter logs by a rule and troubleshoot that rule. So basically the steps that were involved were the following. First of all, we defined all logs related to a rule which drops traffic. Search for an IP address in those drop logs. Create a host from the dropped source IP addresses as an object, and then add that host object to the policy rule that should allow that host traffics. So in R80 security management, when doing these time studies, it took around 30 seconds to create and troubleshoot and do that change, compared to like 4 minutes and 30 seconds with competitive vendor solutions. So again, considering a small rule set of like 100 rules, you can basically save on average 4 minutes per rule to troubleshoot logs. So if you need to troubleshoot 100 incidents, that will be 6 hours of working time where it can be more efficient. So this is what we're striving for, efficiency inside the next generation security management solution. So let me show you the workflow. In here we have a view showing logs and monitoring, and we see all the different drop logs towards a certain destination. We're right-clicking on the destination, we're clicking on Go to Rule, we're getting to the rule that is dropping this traffic, and we can directly see those logs that are being dropped. I can right-click on the host that I need to allow, and from there I can select Create Host, and in there I will just have the IP address pre-filled, and then I define the name of the host object I would like to create. Once the host object is created, I'll locate the rule where this traffic needs to be allowed, and I'll just click on the plus sign, and I will get the newly created host as a suggested object to add into this rule, so I don't need to search for it. Once that is done, I can basically just click Publish and install the policy towards my gateway, and I have resolved my ticket. So this is one example of how the workflow can be more efficient using R80 security management. Within R80, we have created a policy that embraces collaboration. So basically, we can create granular admin delegation where we can delegate permissions to different layers within the same policy for different administrators. You can have multiple administrators working within the same policy packet and also the same layer within that policy packet. In coming versions, we can allow concurrent sessions, which means that we can have an administrator connecting multiple times, working with multiple different sessions within the management solution. So the reason for having this is, for example, if I am working on a large project involving a lot of different security rule changes, this might take like 1 day or half a day for me to complete. So I'm making all the changes and I'm halfway through, and then my manager calls me and says, well, the CIO is not able to reach this destination server and needs to be able to do that right now, so you need to fix that. Since I'm tied up in my session, I don't want to publish those changes because they're not ready yet, and I don't want to install them towards the gateway, and I don't want to discard them. I don't want to lose them and start over again. So then I would like to be able to log in with my administrator user ID again and create a new session where I can do those changes so the CIO can reach the server, publish and install them while continue working on my project. Now today it's not possible to log in with the same administrator multiple times with the same ID, but the workaround would be that I have my normal gym admin user, I'm working with my long cumbersome project, and then I can have a quick and dirty gym admin user, and I can log in with a quick and dirty gym admin user because I have sessions per user. And then I can do my change to allow the CEO to reach the destination, install those, and continue working with my normal admin users. So that's a way or a workaround to work with concurrent sessions for the same user. Now, admin concurrency basically increases team productivity. So while removing complexity to consolidation, efficiency is still achieved through admin concurrency by allowing multiple administrators to work with different parts of the same security policy at the same time, increasing team productivity by allowing collaboration between security teams. R80 Security Management Solution allow administrators to collaboratively work on the same security policy without overriding each other changes. So basically in this example we have Walter, he's logged in and working on rule 3. And Anne is logging in to the same management server and opening the same security policy as Walter's working with, and she can see that rule 3 is locked. If she holds her mouse over the lock icon, she will see that it's indeed locked by Walter, so she's not able to work with that rule. But at the same time, Anne can work on rule number 2 and make her changes on rule number 2, and then she can publish and install the policy while Walter continues to work on rule number 3. So the locking mechanism allows collaboration without conflict, so administrators are not overriding each other changes. To strive for efficiency, we also provide an open trust-based API within the R80 Security Management, which provides strict permissions, which means that you can restrict the access to the API in the same way as you can do to the graphical user interface. So basically, when logging into the API, you log in with your admin credentials, and you set your permissions to your admin credentials, and then you have the same type of permission to do changes over the API as you have with the graphical user interface. So you can extremely granularly allow to make changes from automated process in only certain parts of the security management server. For example, only allowing it to create objects or only allowing it to work with certain layers in specific security policies. So one change cannot affect the entire management infrastructure. This API is also extremely well documented. It contains a simple and clear reference guide with examples. So if you basically just Google for R80 API, you will find a link to the admin reference guide for the API. In R80, we are also providing the ability to use and build a cloud application-driven policy using the API to meet the extreme agility of cloud environments, allowing on-demand services to be secured automatically with the relevant protection needed for that service, enabling organizations' infrastructure services to keep up with the different business requirements on new applications that needs to be populated in a short time. So here's a little video showing how we integrated with VMware vRealize, where we're populating using API calls a new rule base into the security management server. At the same time, we're installing a new security gateway as a software application inside the software-defined data center, and then we're pushing this newly created policy towards this newly created security gateway. Everything automated to make the process more efficient within those extreme dynamic environments where we can't work with human checks to keep up. Also, the API is providing us the ability to allow the security team to offload tasks The security team can, for example, create web-based self-service portals that allows help desk teams do simple tasks like add user, add applications, or host independently. So what would take like half an hour for a security administrator, because he needs to log into the management server, need to do changes, need to read on what the ticket said he was supposed to do and so on, can now be offloaded into help desk admins instead, where they basically can do limited changes using the API from a self-service portal. To change the way IT security department manage risks, we integrated threat management to make the organization more efficient and enable them to focus on what's important when they need to fight through different cyber attacks. This provides full visibility across your network inside the Smart Console. You get full view and report customization, which means that based on your requirements, you can basically customize the reports and views directly from this graphical user interface. And also, you can get access to the incident information from any type of device. So, inside R80, we fully integrated logging, monitoring, event correlation, etc. into one unified location. So as we believe, managing complexity is consolidation. The security management solution allows you to continue build on defense in-depth architecture, having different layers of security controls, protecting against different types of cyber attacks, but at the same time provide a single view into security risk by consolidating all aspects of security into one single unified umbrella. Not only do we make it easy and efficient to drill down to investigate and mitigate threats, we also make it easy to customize views and reports. For example, we have our security administrators that would like to be able to see hosts by malicious activities, so we can create a specific report for those admins. While the C-level executables basically just want to see a high-level monthly security trends, and at the same time the department managers would like to see employees' online behavior. So you can basically customize the reports based on the business requirements, and those reports can be available from any type of device through a web-based interface called SmartView. To summarize this, R80 allows you to consolidate all the different aspects of your security while keeping pace with dynamic environments we're seeing in private and public clouds, and as well as streamlining the way you operate security to become more efficient, and also giving you full visibility to be able to prevent the next attack your organization is targeted to. If you want to know more, you can go to community.checkpoint.com. It's a community where R&D, me, myself, other SEs and customers are asking questions, providing answers, as well as providing information on how, for example, to work with layers, how to work with the API. There are examples of different Python scripts using the API, etc. in there. More and more information about the R80 Security Management Server.